Alex, I'm an addict.
I'm Gracie, I'm not. And we're back for episode 2. We want to start off by saying thank you guys for so much support on our first episode. And we also want to let you guys know we expanded our social media, so please go follow us there. And once we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we're going to do a giveaway. So, be ready for that.
Thank you, everybody.
What's wrong?
I'm exhausted. Wednesdays are like my only night through the week that I get free time. Let's see, what else did I went to work this morning, worked all day. That's different from active addiction. I didn't do anything but be my addiction and be selfish. But now I wake up, I go to work. I opened up a AA meeting, and then now we're adding this in as a hobby. So what'd you do?
I did a little shopping today. I went to Walmart. I went to Five Below. Why are you laughing?
Do you remember our last Five Below interaction?
Definitely an interaction.
So, the last time we went to Five Below, where was I? I was going to check myself into a mental health facility.
Oh, yeah. We went to Dunkin' Donuts before?
Oh, my God. Yeah. Like, all that, such a fog. We should talk about that.
Alright, let's do that.
So, that's like the first time that I called you and was like, I need to get some help. Like, maybe not the first time. I knew I needed help, but like the first time I was like, look, we got to do something. And I went over to a facility, and it was dual diagnosis. So I was going for, what was I checking in for? Like, I was checking it for suicide and paranoia. I mean, that's where I was with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it was. So, that was terrible. That was a terrible experience. I don't know.
So we go over there.
Yeah.
And then you try to distract me all day from taking you there. So we go to Dunkin' Donuts. Then we went to Five Below. And that was interesting.
I had like a meltdown because during Corona, last year, the year before, it's almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Everybody, they Five Below had a bunch of art supplies and journaling, and I literally freaked out because I didn't know why they had all that stuff. So I don't.
You thought it pertained to you.
Like, it's funny now. I thought I was like on a movie. I swear I thought I was being watched. I think a lot of people that get out their own meth probably think that. So. Yeah, also I was super like hyper fixated on like my privacy.
Yes.
Like so much, and I think that stemmed from like technology, like where like all your medical stuff and all that is like through a computer now. I mean, everything's technology and stuff. And I was so paranoid about somebody finding out, which is crazy that I'm sharing all this now because I didn't want nobody to know anything. Like,
if you would have told yourself this 2 years ago, you never would have believed it.
I wouldn't even been around any of this stuff at all. I don't know. I guess I was just trying to hide away from the world, really. But we get over there, and for some reason, like, the privacy, like your privacy, rights or whatever, like the paper that you like, never read whenever,
about, like HIPAA and stuff.
Yeah, so that's stuff that I normally do not read when I go to the doctor's office and sign your name. And well, back then I read every single word on every page.
So I'm sitting there like, like this, like waiting for you to read these packets of papers.
And it was packets, like, and I read every one. And
I'm sitting here just like, sign your name, like, come on.
Here's the thing, like, I had tried to seek help several different times, and, like, I don't know why, like, that, I had asked them at that facility, like, I went up there, I was like, would somebody just take me into a private room and explain all this to me? Because, like, I was trying to, like, find some peace with the paranoia I was feeling. Like, would somebody just sit down and explain this to me so I can stop freaking out? Like, that's where I was at with it. I mean, I probably didn't come off that sane. I probably was acting a little bit over the top.
Maybe just a little.
But they were like, they seemed like they were going to be okay with it and took me into the room.
No, it was all, like, honestly, it was all, like, rightful. I mean, stuff you're definitely entitled to know about yourself or whatever. I mean, at any place.
Yeah, and the thing is, I was checking in for paranoia and suicide. So, like, I feel like whenever I've worked in recovery or whatever, I've been really compassionate to those type of things, and maybe that wasn't the situation, which started a whole new cycle of like not trusting anybody. That was because they took me into a room with you and your mom, and the lady was just not nice. Like, I don't understand. Like, I was not in a good place. It was very obvious. But I remember sitting there and like looking at you and your mom's face and just like in my mind, I'm like, I'm losing it. Like, I am losing it. But looking back at like that situation, even with the clear mind, I don't feel like I was out of the way at all. Like,
no, and I think that's why like we were so upset, or I can speak for myself, why I was so upset is because it was hard to see you so upset in over something that you had the right to be upset over, and them not understand you. Like, in a way, it was almost like we felt bad for you, but at the same time, it was just that it was like hard to watch. It was just hard to watch, really. Like, I don't know another way to explain it.
I felt like a child. Like, I with the right mind, like I could understand all of those things. They aren't, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory when you read it and it says like, right. We're giving, you know.
But it wouldn't have been that hard for them to like even like dumb it down and explain it to you. Just even if they reread the page to you, I don't think it would have been that hard to do.
Yeah, I just wanted it broken down into like layman's terms where, you know, because I just complicated everything that I came into contact with. But the lady came in there and like I remember her saying like, no one's gonna explain that to you. And I felt so like defeated then. Yeah. I'm like, so I was like, well, then I'll get my services elsewhere. And like, and then I look over at you and your mom, and y'all are like crying, and there was another like shame. But looking back, I'm like, I didn't have anything to be shameful for. That I wasn't getting the help that I needed, so that wasn't the place for me. Not saying that place wasn't like, would it be sufficient for someone else? But like for me in that time, that they weren't compassionate to my needs, and I think that is important from. Like, if someone is in healthcare or deals with people that are dealing with psychiatric issues, like, that's the only advice I could give is just to be compassionate and, like, understanding. Like, there's always a reason why someone's doing something, or they're coming from a place where they've been triggered, and they, you know, just be compassionate, especially when it's, you know, checking in with those issues.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, I'm glad that all happened. I'm not bitter or angry about that because it obviously led me down a different path where I definitely got, you know.
I think that was what was hard watching too, is like you were at the point in addiction where you were ready to get help, like you were ready to ask, like you were taking steps to better yourself, but like no one, it felt like from like our perspective, like taking you there, and like I guess like before we had a whole plan of what was going to happen, like we knew what was going to happen, this and that. And then we get there, and then you don't end up going, so it's like felt like you know what I'm saying? Like it was like hard because it's like, okay, well here we go. Now we're leaving another place. What's going to happen after this? Over.
Yeah. Or am I going to survive this next little round between? Because I'm pretty certain that I went straight from there and got high. I got high on the way over there, not with you, but before. But like that's the thing. You know, I think in my mind, because I had recovery and I knew like what was out there. I knew I didn't have to be living like that, but like it was like I couldn't get there, and like every time I went one angle, like there would be obstacles. But like looking back, like that was just my higher power, like stepping in, like this isn't the route that I want to take you, you know. And so I can look back now and see like all the places where the door did open, and I did seize that moment. Like, I'm so grateful for like all of those things that did work out, and for the ones that didn't work out, because I learned so much from all of that. And really, like the people that I felt like hurt me or did wrong, like I'm not angry. I'm happy that all those things happened, because I learned something from every single time.
Right.
You know. But yeah, I think that was the first time that I actually was like, I need some help. Like,
Yeah.
Admitting that I'm powerless over what and I think looking back, that's like the first time that I ever admitted to you guys that like I'm high, I'm out of my mind, like I need some help.
Yeah.
Because before I always just tried to deny, like I'm just depressed or I'm tired, but this time, I mean, I think I was like I'm out there.
Yeah.
So pretty much that was my version of how that day went. So how was your perspective? What was your perspective of that day?
I remember kind of like I said earlier, we kind of like planned out what was going to happen that day, like what we were going to do. So in my head, it was going to be like, I was kind of excited because I feel like when you like love somebody through addiction, whenever they go to a place like that, like if they're in a facility or in jail or rehab, anywhere they go, you know they're going to be safe. Like it gives you peace of mind. So I feel like going into that day, I don't think I was excited. Like excited's not the right word, but it was like, it was definitely a step in the right direction. I was planning in my head for it to be a step in the right direction. So I remember I feel like I picked you up at like 10 or 11 o'clock that day. And like just for perspective, we didn't get back till 5 o'clock. So this was like a long day. So
it was on geeker time.
Yeah. So, we go to Dunkin' Donuts and Five Below, and you're stalling all day to go there. And I don't remember what time we actually end up getting there, but then we go to the place, and I remember like sitting in the waiting room, and you like read these papers, and you were asking so many questions because you were so worried about your privacy. And that was like the first time I can say that I was like very, very agitated with you. Like I feel like through your addiction, I feel like I'm pretty calm with you for the most part. So, 100%. That was like the first time I remember sitting there and like having to like take a deep breath and like calm down because you just kept saying all these things like you were worried about your privacy and like I couldn't tell you anything because I didn't know what to tell you. And like I remember telling you, these are just standard papers you have to sign. And I think you knew that, but I think maybe I wasn't really necessarily understanding where you were coming from in the point, because I guess I didn't understand, because like she said, like those are papers you sign and never read a word on. So like for her to sit there and be like reading every line and every word, it was a lot to take in. And so then I remember like after, like when we were in the room talking to the lady, I remember, like I said, she it was kind of like defeating, I guess, almost, because it was like, okay, now we're gonna take her back home, like what will tomorrow bring then, like it's not over, but I remember like just being sad for you, and like I guess like the look in your eyes when we expected somebody to say something to you and they didn't too, like it was almost a letdown. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I felt that, like I felt whenever I said like, then I'll get my services elsewhere, and
right.
Like I felt that from y'all. Like I felt you guys, like the energy shifted, like you guys were defeated, like it just was. But something in me, even in addiction, like has this Joan of Arc attitude, like that I need to stand up for what's right, and
oh, for sure, you were all about that then.
And looking back, like yes, I still feel that way. Like I stand up for things. I stand up for people who can't, speak for themselves.
Yeah.
But really, like, none of that matters. You know what I mean? Like,
to a certain extent.
I mean, I definitely still have that attitude. I'm going to voice my opinion now because I haven't had a voice for so long. I've kept quiet, and like I said, my gut told me this isn't the place. So, I think this last rip, it was the first time that I started like listening to that voice, and that's what, like, I feel like that's where, like, when I talk about that spiritual transformation, like that is what I went through. And for real, like, so when I was at another long-term treatment, I remember like literally getting on my knees, and because like I said before in like the last episode, I kept feeling like I was missing something, and I remember getting on my knees and praying like, just please change my heart, because like I just felt like my soul was sick. I remember telling someone that worked in the facility I was in, like, I have had every opportunity to get all the education in the world, like, I know that part of it, so what am I missing? Like, you can have all the tools in the world, but, like, if your soul is sick, then there's something else you got to work on. And so I spent the next 2 years, like, I feel like trying to figure out, like, what that was. Like, I craved, like, a deeper meaning, like, what is causing all this, you know? And it didn't, the stuff that would go on in my head, like, it wasn't coming out right. It was coming out in paranoia and hyperfixation and anger, and I think that it, like, after that spiritual awakening that I had, I just think things came into perspective. I don't think that I understood any of the spiritual stuff that was happening during that time, obviously, because I had drugs on, like, clouding my mind, but I still didn't understand, like, all of these spiritual synchronicities and signs, and I didn't understand that with a like, intoxicated mind.
Right.
So now that I do
scared you at the time, I think. I think they did, and that's what kept making it go deeper and deeper, is these things would happen and it would scare you, and then it would make you more paranoid, and you not understand until you opened your eyes and realized, really.
Yeah. And that, you know, there's a night that we'll talk about later on that, like, after this night of a horrible night of events, that ended up being the best night of my life because it changed my whole life. But prior to that, I was overwhelmed with all, like, there was just so much spiritual stuff that happened to me throughout those times, and, like, the people that I would meet, things people would say, or, like, music that would come on, and that's why I felt like I was in this state of paranoia where I felt like people were watching me, because all of these synchronicities in, like, a spiritual sense that I did not get it. Like, I hadn't even learned about that kind of stuff, so I didn't understand it. And I think that when you don't understand something, like, it doesn't make sense. So, and I feel like that's another reason why we're doing this, to make, you know, to help give, like, an understanding of what somebody goes through.
From every perspective.
Yeah, because you can't understand something that you don't get. That don't make sense. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, until you've
been through it.
Or you learn about it. Because now it all makes perfect sense, you know? But at the time, definitely not.
So to continue on from that day, we leave and I take you back home. And I remember driving off, and so I have, like, an added on backup camera to my car. And so I, like, look down and it, like, plugs into my cigarette outlet, and you were so freaked out about it that day. I remember very vividly. But the funny part is, like, I remember, like, probably 3 years ago at this point, it's when I first started driving, and you were clean, and you had came home, and I think it was, like, the first time you saw my car, and so there's, like, an obvious, like, backup camera that sticks out of the back of my car, and you told me, you were like, if somebody were on drugs, they'd be freaked out about that. Like, they'd be thinking you were watching them. And so then
I ended up being the person.
So then a year later, I'm pretty sure that day, like, that time period, you were so freaked out about it every time you'd get in my car. Like, I remember you saying something, or, like, you'd be watching it. And anyway, so you get out and I drive off, and I'm, like, backing down the driveway, and my backup camera's, like, not working. I was like, what the heck? And I looked down and it was unplugged. And I never even saw you do it, for one. So
I'm sneaky.
Yeah. So that was kind of funny. But I feel like from a family's point of view, in situations like that, it's hard because you want nothing more than to help them or help the person, but you can't help them until they're ready to help themselves, which is, like, important to remember. So you have to, in those times, you just have to love them, really. Like, you have to not get frustrated with them, which is hard, but I feel like I was always very good at, I feel like it was very hard for me, especially when I was younger. I mean, anytime, like, you were using, to be honest with you, it was very hard, but I never enabled you, I don't think.
No. I mean, I think you guys, your mom, my parents, like, everybody, my whole family, like, offered support. We're here, but, like, don't bring that shit around us. Like, there's no denying when I'm using. Like, immediately, it's all or nothing. Can't you attest to that? Like, I mean, I'm either sober and clean and working a program and doing good. When I do good, I do real good. But as soon I mean, when I do bad, I do real bad. So, y'all know immediately.
Yeah. And that's when you have to kind of like love them from a distance, which is hard because once again, you want to fix it. Like that's human nature to want to fix something that's someone who's like hurting, but you can't because in some points when you try to fix it, you really end up enabling them. So that's just when you have to support them and be there for them, but not give them everything you have too.
And I think like look, even in the moment when I was going through all that, like I knew that you guys weren't going to enable me, but I know like every time that I ever called, like that's what I'd say, you guys did everything perfect from like a family perspective, because anytime I called, you guys answered the phone. Like you guys text me whenever I'm going through it. Like you even said the other night, you still have like all the text messages between us, even, I mean, they're probably crazy, but and just whenever I was ready, like I remember one time that I was wanting to call my probation officer and tell on myself, like your mom came over and sat right next to me because I was so afraid of sounding like a psycho or it not coming out the way that I was wanting it to. Mm-hmm. Not like trying to manipulate the situation, but like I just, like I at that point I couldn't tell the difference between like what was real and what wasn't. So I've always, anytime like I dealt with I always needed somebody there because I felt like I just wasn't in my right mind. And you guys always showed up. You know, that's what I'm so grateful for. Like my family and you guys like just always showed up.
And I would say like this last time compared to like other times like in years prior, you did admit it to us, so it was easier to help you and be there for you in those moments too, because like where before, like you could definitely see a shift in you ready to take the step to move forward in your life because you admitted it to us, which made us help you in a different way than we could have before, you know, where before we wouldn't have been able to help you in those situations, you know what I mean? Like
because I lied about what was going on. And I mean, I think that's a huge barrier between the addict and the family is boils down to communication, like, and not just communication, but honesty and when communicating, because I think that through addiction and the people that you surround yourself when you're getting high, like obviously you're all enabling each other, you're all in a sick insanity cycle of addiction, whatever, and manipulation and lying and cheating, that stuff is second nature when I'm getting high. Like there's no thought process you're morally deficient, I feel like I was. And I mean, yeah.
And over time, it becomes hard for the family because then through that, you know, your family gets like trust issues from the lying and manipulation, stealing, whatever, you know. And but once again, like we said last time, that's when you have to remember that that's not who the addict is when they're clean, you know. Like you have to remember that they wouldn't do those things to you clean, and it makes it hard. And I'm not saying that makes it like right that they do those things, you know, and it doesn't make it okay that they do those things, but that's something to remember when you're trying to just like love them to get through this with them, you know. You have to remember that's not fully them, you know.
Yeah. I was thinking, you remember when I was like freaking out over thinking somebody stole my identity?
Yes.
So like I'm sitting here thinking, like just now, this is how like spaced out I'm sitting here thinking like I stole my own identity. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for real. Maybe that was just some internal stuff. I mean, I thought I was convinced somebody had stolen my identity on the internet. Like, why would someone want to steal my identity? My credit score's shit. And I had no money. So, there's that.
At the time, it seemed
logical.
Yeah. That's okay.
Anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight. The last 2 episodes, that's how we've kind of been sharing our personal experiences, and but we would love if you could tell us a topic that you would like us to touch base on, or something you would like to hear about. We'll feed off that and, you know, share our experience. But
before you go, if you've made it this far, comment a thumbs up so you can encourage other people that are watching that maybe feel hopeless or however they feel, that you support them and are there for them. And also, please don't forget to follow us on our other social medias. Once again, once we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we're going to do a giveaway. And we're really excited for it, right?
Yep.
But I'll have it linked. The little link we keep posting is like a link tree, and it has, if you click that link, it has all of our social medias. Like, you can click on them, whichever one you want to go follow. So please go do that, because it would mean a lot to us. And we appreciate you guys supporting us and watching. And see you next time.